This is a BBC podcast. You can get all our podcasts and our terms of use at bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
So fantastic, and welcome everybody here today.
You're listening to Assignment on the BBC World Service with me, Nina Robinson, at a protest meeting in central London. There's a hall packed full of people listening to speeches campaigning against a radical set of new reforms to the British welfare system. The next person on stage is a 16-year-old schoolgirl. Her name's Sarah.
Yeah, I used to be very nervous in terms of giving class presentations in school. I'm always the person that kind of shakes and gets very nervous. But since this situation, I think it's because I'm speaking about what I'm passionate about. The nerves kind of override you.
Unlike other teenagers who might spend their Saturday afternoons out shopping with their friends, Sarah is here to give a politically charged speech about how she and her family are facing the prospect of eviction from their home.
They could evict us at any minute. They could call and say you have to be out tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock and then we'd have to leave.
I'm Isabel Cunahan-Sanchez and this is my daughter Sarah. We have an eviction notice. My solicitor has told them that they will have to get a court order to evict us. If someone has a home here, I don't see why they should be moved. I feel like it's an ethnic cleansing of London, moving the poorer people out.
We are fighting back, and we do think that if a lot of us come together and fight back and say no to what's been implemented on us, then we can change something. First it was very hard, but now I'm getting used to it. So, yeah, I think it's a good learning experience as well for me, because I wasn't very aware of politics before this happened. So it has opened my eyes.
So you'll be on soon.
Yeah.
Someone else is talking at the moment.
Yeah, we better head down and wait for you to be called. Oh, gosh.
Or us.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Sarah and her family are against some of the biggest changes that welfare in the UK has seen in decades. They're worried about high rental costs in private accommodation and being affected by a cap which limits how much the government pay out in housing support. The reforms have provoked heated debate between those who believe the poorest in society will be penalised and those who think the changes will make people less reliant on state handouts.
We started our protest. We're now banned from Great Town Hall.
Sarah is well received by campaigners against the reforms and her speech gets plenty of applause. But to find out more about what impact these reforms are having, I've also been talking to other affected families. I began interviews before the measures were introduced and then visited people over the course of a few months to see how their situations changed during that time.
Anyone thinking we can just keep endlessly pumping money into the system is wrong. Frankly, as the last government put it, there's no money left.
The British Prime Minister David Cameron set out his reasons for welfare reform in a speech at a shopping mall last year. So I've come to a busy shopping district of London to find out just how far his speech taps into public opinion. Do you agree with David Cameron that the welfare budget is out of control, that it needs it needs to be controlled?
Definitely. Keeps escalating, doesn't it? So you've got to put a stop on it some time, otherwise it keeps going on and on and on.
Obviously in today's society we need to look at saving money. Everybody's purse strings are getting tighter, governments have less money to spend, so to be fair for society, it needs to be brought under control for everyone really.
Most people, 3/4 of the British public according to social research surveys, agree that politicians need to reduce the welfare bill. It currently stands at over $300 billion and has increased 34% in the last decade, largely in pensions to the elderly.
What I can do about it, there isn't enough money around, is there?
I know it's difficult at the moment because there's no jobs, not many jobs about, so obviously there's more people unemployed, so that makes it worse, doesn't it?
I think we've fundamentally failed to see that this policy of austerity, cost-cutting, isn't stimulating the economy, isn't driving small business growth, isn't driving banks to lend money. And I think the most recent a tax on some of the most vulnerable people in society, the unemployed single parents, are not going to do anything for deficit reduction.
Do you think there is this culture of dependency, that there are people on benefits who are not encouraged to work?
Yes, definitely, yeah. No, I know people that are on benefits and really they should just get off their bums and get a job. I've seen it myself, so I know it does go on, but I've always grafted for the pennies. But there are too many people in this country that actually get away with that system, so I think we're too soft.
Certainly there are cases where there's abuse of the benefit system. I've seen it myself in a place I worked previously. I saw claimants for job seekers allowance who weren't really looking for work. There were lots of rule-breaking people out there. Although they're not ill, it's just excuse after excuse.
It's a popular sentiment, often repeated in the press, that fraud is a big problem. But government estimates indicate it exists in just 3.4% of unemployment claims and 1.2% of disability claims. Reforms to welfare aiming to incentivise work include cutting some payments and limiting the total amount any one household can receive to $750 a week. They came into force on April the 1st.
The headlines this morning on Monday, the 1st of April. Controversial changes to taxes, benefits are all coming into effect today.
A wave of change to the benefits system, which has dominated political debate for much of the past 2 years, has begun in earnest.
One change in particular has been causing a lot of controversy, sparking protests around the UK. The government call it a spare room subsidy, but it has been widely dubbed the bedroom tax. It's a policy where people living in government-subsidised social housing and claiming welfare have to start paying extra if they have spare bedrooms. Critics think the policy targets vulnerable tenants who already live in poverty, but the government argue it saves money and will free up much-needed larger homes for those who live in overcrowded conditions. I'm just walking down a narrow street where there are 2 tower blocks to my left, and then there's another block of social housing on my right. So it's quite built up here, quite grey. So I'm just looking now for the flat of a man that I met the other day. I met him actually at a meeting where it's called the Mutual Exchange Scheme, where people who live in overcrowded conditions can go and talk about trying to swap their properties. And I met this gentleman there, and he said that he's living in a flat that's 2 bedrooms, and he says there are 6 people living in there.
17th floor. Doors opening.
Emmanuel Rich and his wife Taya have been trying to move from the top floor of this tower block to a bigger place for the last 8 years. They show me around and explain how they live.
We can start from the kitchen, which is just right here. I guess it's not that fantastically massive, but obviously it serves the purpose for a 2-bedroom apartment, I guess.
I'm Taya Richards. I'm Emmanuel's wife. And my son is 12 now, and he's quite a big 12. So he can't actually fit on the beds anymore, so he has to sleep on the floor. And I've got my daughter, who is 10, just 10. And then I've got my son Zuriel, who is 8. We really keep toys to the very, very minimum because,
Yeah, because there's hardly any toys. I can see one teddy bear.
Yeah. And then I've got my sister, who is like 34. And actually, that's her living space up there.
And that's the one room of the flat.
So this is your kids' bedroom?
Kids' bedroom with my sister in the share. This place is actually 4 of them in here.
And what makes it even trickier is that she's a Muslim, and, we just kind of make do. And but she has things that she has to observe in Islam. And, we're Christians. So, it's not ideal.
And this is the master bedroom. And at the same time, it's my mini office. And,
so you actually work from home as well?
That's my desk right there, as you can see. And that's the bed next to it. And and this is us.
This is not an unusual way to live in London, with 1 in 3 children in the capital living in overcrowded social housing. Across the country, there are 250,000 social housing tenants who need bigger homes. So from Emmanuel and Taya's point of view, the bedroom tax makes perfect sense.
Since I've been of the age of 19, I've never expected the government to pay anything for me. There are times where you do need help, and they do help, gets you back on your feet, and you go back straight into employment. But if people are sitting in 4-bedroom homes and it's being paid by the taxpayer, I don't think that's right.
It doesn't make sense, does it?
Well, my name is John, but everybody knows me as Fred. And I've lived in this house since it was built, which was about 1998.
60-year-old Fred is going to be hit with the bedroom tax because he's been deemed to have 2 spare bedrooms.
That's my eldest daughter. And without her and my middle daughter, who's now 22, I wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't be here, because I've not been able to work.
What job were you doing, and how long have you been on the housing support from the government?
I haven't been able to work for probably over 12 years because my back, pardon my French, is knackered. I hate being on the system, but I've got no other choice.
According to the government's impact assessment report, out of the 660,000 people estimated to be affected by the bedroom tax in Britain, 420,000 have disabilities, which is 63%. It states that households containing a disabled claimant or partner would be more likely to be affected.
Oh, you stay there.
I don't tend to move very far.
You've got a toilet under the stairs just there, quite a small one. We'll go up to the first floor.
We leave Fred downstairs and his daughter Terry and I have a look upstairs.
This is another bedroom that we've had to clear out.
So this room
is the box room, the smallest room. Younger sister, she's moved from this room into the room next door. For obvious reasons,
so there are remnants of her old life in here. So you've got the dolls on the shelves,
the graffiti on the walls.
There's some graffiti on the walls.
She only moved into the last bedroom about 2 weeks ago.
And there's a single mattress on the floor here, and there's lots of books and crates full of books.
Yeah,
it's quite dusty.
The next room. So can you shut that because we have the dog coming on? My sister's moving into this room, so it's a process of moving stuff from the loft into here. Because this room, when I'm not here, is for my sisters to come when they want to come and stay.
So Terry explains the rooms are used by her father's other daughters, his partner and son, and even she comes with her kids to stay over sometimes. But the rooms are officially classed as unoccupied.
So officially you can see that all bedrooms will be occupied at some point, just not on paper.
So, are you worried basically that he will have to move out?
If it moves out, to be honest with you, with his health and the stress, it will kill him. It would kill him. He's not able to move or lift anything because of his back and his foot.
When we're talking about him, he gets upset quite easily about it.
He knows that if the fact comes and they say you have to downsize, to try and move him at his stage in life with his health would kill him.
We head back downstairs where Fred is considering his options.
Well, I've got a choice. I can pay out of what's left of my benefit. I would have to live on the street because I would have no money to do anything.
How do you think you will be able to cope with having to pay that extra money?
Well, at the moment, I'm helping him out financially, so is my sister.
As my eldest daughter's just said, I'm sorry. As my eldest daughter just said, she buys
60%.
Yeah, a good 60% of what I eat. I feel disgusted.
Because when the government would say that, you're living in a property with 2 spare bedrooms and there are people, not living very far from here. I just met a guy this morning who was living 6 people in a 2-bedroom flat. Do you have any sympathy for people in that situation?
I do have that sympathy because at one point we were living in a 2-bedroom flat with 5 children. So yes, I do feel sympathy.
But Fred doesn't accept any blame for the wider problem of overcrowding because he puts acute demand for social housing down to a lack of supply after policies to sell them off were implemented in the 1980s.
Margaret Thatcher gave councils the right to sell off their properties to tenants. So by selling off any properties and by not building housing, then basically they created this situation.
I mean, you look great there, you're holding the microphone, you're in free, really confidently talking to the whole crowd.
Yeah, and a lot of people just come up and say that, it's inspiring.
I meet Sarah and her mum Isabel at their house a month after she gave her speech. We watch her performance on YouTube from her laptop. We're in your kitchen at the moment, the washing machine is on.
Yeah, no, this is the kitchen area.
We're in the kitchen where I find out more about how they came to be claiming welfare in the form of housing benefit.
We were claiming housing benefit since we came back from Ireland because we were there for a year looking after my father-in-law, so 3 years.
Covering your whole housing costs?
No. The weekly rent in the house was $6.90. Our share of the rent that we paid from our pocket was $2.29 a week. So we were paying good rent out of our own pockets, and housing benefit topped up the rest.
And the reason why the housing benefit tops up is because your husband is not earning enough to... So he works full-time?
He does work full-time, but I think it's a case of that the private rents are extortionate.
Isabel's husband is a driver on the Red London buses, but private rents in London are so high that his wages do not cover his family's housing costs. The vast majority of new claimants of housing benefit are in working households. Research by the Building and Social Housing Federation showed recently that 93% of them are. Isabel fears their pending eviction because under the new reforms, welfare payments are limited and may not cover their rent.
I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling sick, basically, because the older children understand more. Aidan is 7 and he said to me a few weeks ago, and he said, I don't understand why you stopped paying your rent. I said, I'm really sorry. And I said, it wasn't a case that I stopped paying my rent. I said, we couldn't afford the rent. But he did actually blame me.
Do you think it would be easier in a way, like if you just found a property that your dad could afford and then just live, without help from the state?
I think that's really hard to do because I think everyone kind of needs help from the state because there's not a lot of jobs at the moment. The unemployment rate is so high and people that do have a job aren't getting enough for a living wage, they're getting the minimum. So I think everyone kind of needs a bit of help because people aren't getting what they deserve.
So we're just coming in from a bitterly cold spring day in London. Raquel and her daughter are just coming home from having played tennis. Another family affected by welfare reform is Raquel, a single mum to 8-year-old Jasmine. She's been on welfare since her daughter was born. There are just over 500,000 lone parents like her claiming welfare, which is about 10% of the total number of working-age claimants.
I put a pizza for them.
You're going to put pizza in? All right, let's talk in the kitchen.
Jasmine, here's another pizza. The situation in this place is going harder and harder.
And you're originally from Spain?
Yes, but I've been living in England for the last 23 years, paying taxes, and...
What jobs have you done?
I came to this country and I was au pair. And from au pair, I work in McDonald's in Victoria. I work in all the Primarks.
So mainly in the retail sector, retail industry.
And catering.
Because you're on benefits, you've been on benefits for quite a while.
Yeah, I've been in benefits too long and I feel shame of that. I'm not happy to be in benefits. This is living in poverty. I don't want to live in poverty, but because I have a beautiful child, I cannot go back to work.
Raquel's daughter has learning difficulties, but has been stuck in a 3-year battle with her local school to get the extra teaching support Jasmine needs.
She cannot read, she cannot write, I need to be supporting her. She cannot go by the school by herself. I don't have no one to collect her. What the government need to do instead of cutting benefits is to put better breakfast club than they are free, better after clubs than they are free, and I'm going to pay my tax.
Childcare costs have risen at nearly double the rate of inflation, by nearly 6% last year, according to the national childcare charity Daycare Trust. Jasmine is absorbed by a film she's watching on the TV as Raquel and I talk through her finances.
I need to pay my phone, I need to pay my electric, I need to pay my water, then I cannot win. Doesn't care what I do, because with my £60 I cannot live. Gas bill is going higher. I didn't put my heating in the whole winter, yes?
You didn't put your heating on?
No, I cannot afford it. I cannot afford my heating.
All 6 of the UK's largest energy firms raised their prices last year, which reached some of their highest levels. Fuel poverty is a reality for 4.5 million households in the UK.
Now I need to think in Jasmine. Already, she is sleeping with 3 pyjamas in the night, then she is not cold. But the government don't care about this because I'm lazy and I don't want to work. Yes? What I doing? There's nothing else I can do. I did everything. I work in the library, supporting the library. I work in the school, supporting the school. And the reason I did this is to don't feel that I'm waste of space and to give back to the Cameron society. And the only thing Cameron is doing is punish us.
I said I wanted to try and help build a more responsible society in Britain, where we don't just ask, what am I owed, but what more can I give?
David Cameron's reforms to welfare hope to encourage people into work by ensuring claimants are not better off on welfare than in a job. And in a measure which will reduce government spending by 10%, Raquel will see a fall in the help she receives. She'll have to find an extra $17 a week towards her costs. It may not sound much, but it amounts to 16% of her total income.
The point is, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And it's what I cried. I cannot cut anything else. What am I going to cut? The food. The only thing I can cut is the food.
Hello, Raquel.
Lo siento.
Hi.
A few months later, I arranged to meet Raquel again.
Yes, so Raquel, we're here in Peckham because I just want to find out what's been going on since last time we spoke.
Things are going worse because soon I'm going to receive my bills for my gas and my electric for the whole winter.
When we talked about where you could cut money in your spending, you said the only area was food.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to a food bank.
Okay, I can be not eating the whole day, then is what I do normally, but my daughter cannot be without food the whole day.
So what are you saying, that you don't eat during the day?
No, I don't eat.
So you don't have lunch?
No, I don't have breakfast.
You don't have breakfast?
Only I have dinner with my daughter.
And how do you feel about that?
How do you think I feel? Depressed. I want to go back to work. I'm the only thing Jasmine have. I need to go with her to occupational therapy, speech and language. I don't want to be in this situation in the first place. And it's because the system is not working.
That's my air compressor. I use it for airbrushing.
I visit Fred again too and find him in his living room airbrushing paint to make delicate toy model cars, skills that in his past working life earned him money that paid his rent. But he hasn't paid any of the extra money being charged since the new reforms came in. He explains that now he's falling into rent arrears.
I've been in an unfortunate position where I haven't been able to pay. I have put in for DLA, Disability Living Allowance, and that has been turned down. So it's now going through an appeal. If I'm lucky enough to get that, I will be able to afford to pay the backlog that is due, the arrears that I'm in.
So you're kind of looking at alternative ways that you might be able to claim welfare, because there's absolutely no way that you can get that extra £37 a week.
None whatsoever. Well, I'm not able to resolve my financial difficulties because I can't work more hours, I can't work full stop. The government are forcing us out of our own homes.
Sometimes you need to use music to be expressing yourself because sometimes words aren't enough.
Sarah's been learning about jazz and blues as part of her music exams going on at school. It's been helping her mentally cope with the stress, knowing they could be evicted any day now.
Sometimes I've got very good days where I feel I'm all right, but I am actually seeing a counsellor at the moment because of me being very low and feeling that no one cared. There was talk about social services and foster care, so it got so out of hand, and I was crying to my mum and my dad. I said, I feel like no one is willing to help us. I started to get very panicky because I thought, what are they going to do? It's in the middle of my exams, you know. So I do, you know, in terms of emotions, it's hard to keep yourself kind of happy when you've got the worries in the back of your head.
It's an unsettling time for Sarah and her family, living with the uncertainty of being moved from their home. They're not alone, with more social housing tenants building up arrears since April. In one area of London, rent arrears are reportedly up by 25%, and in the northern city of Leeds, the figure is 50%. There are worries evictions will follow. None of the people I've featured in this programme have found work as an alternative to welfare yet, although this might change. They're mainly wondering what's going to happen to them next.
There are dozens of different podcasts now available from the BBC, including news, documentaries, science, business, arts and sport. For details of them all, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.